Before we start this video, I want to give a massive shout out to the patrons on the screen right now. You guys are truly awesome, and if anyone else wants to support me, I will leave the link in the video description. I'd like to take a brief second to mention today's sponsor, Skillshare. The first 500 people to sign up with the link below will get 2 free months. Enjoy the video. Huawei has persisted to break the mold in smartphone design, innovation and feature set, continuing to shake up the super high-end device sector previously dominated by Apple and Samsung. In late 2018, they dropped the Mate 20 on us, pushing the limits in camera, industrial design and artificial intelligence. And thanks to the wonderful Mr. Damien Wilde, today I'm going to do a bit of a review. Hey guys, my name's Ryan Thomas with Fail Tech, and thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. This is the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. There are many ways to discuss my favourite smartphone of all time. That's not a label that I dish out lightly. In fact, the last time a device got such praise from me is back with the Galaxy S7 Edge. The Mate 20 Pro is my ideal phone in so many ways. Sure, there are some imperfections and ways in which it could be improved, but for what I want and need in a daily smartphone, this is it. And I want to tell you why I'm really not looking forward to sending it back. The first main big selling point of this smartphone just has to be the sheer feature list that it has. Everything from the IR blaster to USB 3.1 to wireless charging and everything in between. And whilst we're on the subject of features, the in-display fingerprint scanner is impressive. In fact, it's not as slow as people make it out to be, really not quite as fast as the S10's unit, mind you. The big problem with the scanner is not actually the fact that it's slower, but the fact there's no indentation like there would be on a standard fingerprint scanner situated mainly on the back, where there's a little ridge where you would usually put your finger. On the screen, it's perfectly flush, so you don't really have a groove to put your thumb in when you go to actually use it. And whilst we're on the subject of authentication methods, the face unlock in my opinion is the way to go. It's actually better than the fingerprint scanner, it's much up there with Touch ID, and I really like to actually use it for the majority of the time, me using the Mate 20 Pro, because I found it that much better than using the Touch ID replacement. And it doesn't rely on just the camera, it does have an array of sensors there to help with that. This device's design is one of my favourites of all time. It combines so many great features of many of the world's best into an ironically unique package that suits me from the ground up. Whether we're talking about the incredibly shallow notch, the speaker built into the USB port, the quadrant camera setup, the funky textured back, or the accented power button, you can tell that Huawei is really trying to make their handset stand out, and it really shows. The tapered glass edges look and feel stunning, enabling some one-handed use despite most of the time it taking 2 hands to operate properly. The way this colour and texture looks and feels is so distinctive and idiosyncratic to it that you feel like part of a higher club holding one of these. The curved front edges make the Mate 20 Pro a dream to hold, and the subtle transition between metal and glass is one that I really enjoy. And whilst we're on the subject of the front of the display, that big, beautiful 6.4 inch behemoth of a display just encapsulates you in a way that smaller units just cannot. Its spec list reveals the use of an AMOLED panel with a silly high resolution, Gorilla Glass 5 and a great set of certifications. It gets super bright outdoors when you need it to, but also blissfully dim when you just want to check text at 3 AM. Its colour and vibrancy is almost above every other panel, and the way the hybrid stereo speaker setup works is just great for watching YouTube videos and is very fun without a hiccup. Games are more fun to play on this thing than ever thanks to that big full fat display, and when playing even the basic titles, the vibrancy is so great that it makes everything feel more fun. Of course we have a top notch up at the top, but as I've said in the past, I prefer the notch to be longer and shallower. That's why I like the iPhone's display so much, and since that fits this criteria, it's much less intrusive. The display experience is incredible, and you only really get an idea of how small other displays are when you compare it to this beast. Oh, and the always on display is refreshing for me since I've been on IPS displays for so long now, although in my opinion it's still not quite as good as Samsung's or Motorola's. Of course, what's the point of a great display if you can't push the pixels to it? And the Mate 20 Pro has no problem in this regard. The Kirin 980 combined with the 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage provide more than enough power to drive every single pixel on the display. Everything from browsing the web and social media is easily covered, and then the mid-range games, the 2D titles, maybe the lower end 3D titles, they're covered, and then all the way up to the highest end 3D titles and games completely covered by the 980. Any task that I've wanted this phone to complete has been an absolute dream. Naturally, this is no surprise when you look at the sheer power behind it, featuring that in-house Kirin 980 with 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. Oh, and that's the base model as well. After playing some games and doing some further investigation, I can conclude that this thing is absolutely up there with the best gaming phones. As I've talked about extensively in the past, hardware power is absolutely no use without some good software as well. Firstly, it has a pretty heavy skin which some will love and some will hate. I personally installed Nova for that familiarly clean layout, although saying that, some of the tools in EMUI settings are really smart, and I've covered those briefly in this review already. The pre-installed apps are pretty heavy, and once you hide those it's fine, but there are some random ones in there, such as the mirror, which is basically just a selfie camera. Kind of strange. But one thing I do need to point out is I couldn't get Zupa to work for some reason for my widgets, which I usually use to make the custom desktops. And something that's really odd to me, but kind of cool, like it's not a good or a bad thing, it's just something that's odd to me, is that Swiftkey is the pre-installed stock keyboard. I never really understood why, like why didn't EMUI just have its own keyboard, but no, you use Swiftkey. And all that said and done, I do actually like EMUI as a whole. It does a great job at minimizing everything in the background, whilst unlike MIUI actually enabling notifications, which is nice. So we get good battery life, good key features, but also notifications, so bonus. Battery life. At least in my testing, was absolutely world class, with the 4200 mAh cell handily helping me through a full day of social media use and the odd video watching, often able to push into a few hours in the next day. I praise the P20 for its incredible battery life, and the Mate 20 Pro is definitely up there with it. Huawei's supercharging is also rapid, and I really did enjoy that when using the device. Of course, you're going to want the original brick and charger that came in the box, because that is the best way to charge the phone, but in return you get some super fast charging speeds, and the fact that you can kind of forget to charge it and then top it up for like 10 minutes and get almost a full battery. Well, maybe not quite, I'm exaggerating there. And now for the headline feature, or rather features of the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, its cameras. You get such an incredible array of incredible sensor and lens combinations that you can forget about it being a smartphone in the first place. 3 focal lengths on the back and a hugely pixel dense front sensor too for the selfie lovers out there, and we haven't even got to the best bit yet. Huawei's camera app is the best on the planet in my opinion, and I know I raved about this with the P20, but it's just as good, if not better here. We're treated to countless modes, settings, tweaks, and the amount of control we have is immeasurable. That being said, if you for any reason didn't want any of this control, auto options are just as good as the manual ones, and almost any image taken from this thing just looks stunning. Photo results show many traits, namely fantastic dynamic range, incredible sharpness, and brilliant colour accuracy. Of course, since we get 3 different focal lengths to play with, the spread of photos I have to show you can vary in more ways than just the subject or theme, since there is a certain irreplaceable characteristic to each focal length. In great light, you won't need to worry at all about getting good images, and even in poor light, they just won't look bad. In more challenging conditions, such as night or in poorly lit rooms, they come out looking a lot better than the other options in the same environment. Picking out some modes here, portrait mode works a treat, offering great edge detection and giving a pleasing overall final image. But I think I preferred the fake bokeh modes, since you have that aperture slider that you can use to emulate the aperture control from f0.95. It's a lot more convincing than you'd expect, and I really enjoyed using the mode. Night mode is also as good as the P20, meaning you get some truly awesome photos in environments that years past would just have been no-go zones for the latest flagships. I don't know if it's just my nocturnal nature, but I really love the way night mode has come along and is now on pretty much every smartphone release. Selfies, well, aside from that cheap beautification effect that should be turned off anyway, images come out looking great. The selfie sensor being 24 megapixels results in unparalleled sharpness, and the dynamic range is also solid here due to Huawei software working hard behind the scenes to optimize the output. Selfie portrait mode wasn't bad either, producing some decent looking images with good edge detection, even if not quite as good as that of the Pixel. As for smartphone video, well, we aren't treated to UHD at 60 due to the Kirin 980 chip used here, but video quality is still absolutely on point. Stabilisation on all three lenses look great, despite the telephoto being the only setup to feature true optical stabilisation. For those of you looking to make a start in video creation, this might be just your phone. As an all-round smartphone camera setup, this has to be one of the best and most complete packages that I have ever seen. One of the many complaints of users is that this uses a weird proprietary nano SD kind of thing. And okay, it's not conventional and I wish they just used micro SD, but at the same time, the fact that we've got some really good cloud services for free and the fact that we have 128 gigabytes of storage as stock means I don't really care anymore about that micro SD card slot on a phone like this. Also, we don't get a headphone port, which is kind of a given. I don't really care much about that these days. Yes, I do like to see the headphone port and I don't think it's obsolete by any means, but I'm just kind of starting to get used to the fact that we don't have one on pretty much any smartphone. And before we end this video, I'd like to dedicate this last segment to today's sponsor, Skillshare. The awesome online learning environment filled with courses about everything from cooking to painting to everything in between. I'm a huge advocate for online learning, studying with the Open University myself, and I really like to see these kind of companies spring up. They offer a wide variety of different learning environments, different courses, and several different topics. Their world-renowned lessons, well, yeah, I'm actually taking some time to brush up on my skills in Adobe Illustrator myself. The first 500 people to sign up with my link get 2 free months, so please do check that out in the video description. And I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Anyway guys, just before my voice completely goes, I'm going to have to end this one. Thank you so much for Damien Wilde for giving me the Mate 20 Pro to play with. Yeah, my voice is completely going, I'm really sorry. I love the Mate 20 Pro and I think it's probably my new favourite phone of all time. Anyway, please do like, dislike, comment and subscribe if you're interested in another video like this one. Also check out my brand new social medias, which are all on the screen right now, as well as new merch that I've just released, so all links will be in the video description as always. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons, you guys are super awesome. My name's been Ryan Thomas from Feltech and I will see you in the next one. Peace.